So we got the new Insta360 Flow 2 Pro, what they're calling the ultimate AI tracking stabilizer. Some of you may know this contraption as a gimbal. It looks like they've made improvements to a very portable solution for stabilization and AI tracking. Like, that's kind of part of the benefit here, or maybe even more so than smooth shots, is how intelligent these things have become to essentially be a robotic cameraman that can follow you around. One step rapid deploy, foldable and portable, 3-axis stabilization, 10-hour battery life, and it acts as an emergency power bank with a USB output, so you can actually power the phone that you're using with the stabilizer. It attaches magnetically, so it's really easy to remove. Actually, we have our magnetic phone mount accessory here. So there's a couple different options. I mean, you can see the scenario they've presented here, where you have a kind of clamp style with a couple of teeth. And then here we have a more MagSafe style for iPhones, where it's just gonna slap on the surface and maybe be a little bit cleaner. I don't know, we'll try it. So the deep tracking, this is what I was talking about. It can identify people, pets, you can do active tracking, you can do video conferencing, you could just shoot your own videos in which if you move around the room or you're doing some sort of like activity, fitness, meetings, this is gonna be able to follow you. And the other cool thing is that this tracking is happening natively in the iPhone camera app or even during FaceTime. But it doesn't have to only be those native apps. The tracking works in over 200 different iOS apps for either live streaming or if you're doing online meetings. So some key features, it has a built-in selfie stick so you can extend it further so you can get those kind of more dramatic shots. It has something called 360-degree infinite pan tracking, which here's a little demonstration in the center of a roller skater. So that's gonna be able to follow the action in a 360 pattern. It also has an AI mobile editing suite, so you actually can get some of your editing done with their native software. Now I noticed one other accessory before we get into the main package. This is the spotlight. So we now have an external light as an accessory. Some instructions for setup. Ooh, not bad. A little soft microfiber bag to keep it in. Some paperwork, some stickers, and wow, look at the way they've done the instruction there. What the? It's like a filing. It's like an old school file. You flip down there for iOS camera tracking, Android one-tap shooting with the Insta360 app, free tilt mode. So check out how portable the device is, this tiny little guy. And this is our default magnetic mount. So this is similar to the last version, which can adapt to any phone. Obviously, you clamp it in like this, and then the back side is magnetic for hooking onto this portion of the gimbal. So that's gonna be like your universal mount, but obviously you can use the MagSafe mount as well. Ooh, this one's kind of cool. And now I'm just slapping my phone on like this. Cool. And if I unlatch it, I end up with a little stand. Bonus. So a couple different mounting options, which is good. I mean, depending if you have an iPhone or if you maybe need a more secure kind of clamp. Obviously this will work with an iPhone or any phone that just clamps on the side, and then that portion gets clipped in. So options are good. Well, that's cool. They made this portion a mirror. If you are framing yourself with the camera facing back this way, and all you're seeing there is lenses, this mirror will help you frame yourself up. All right, so the device is booted up. We have the phone mounted in portrait. It's mounted to the clamp style mount. The other thing to mention, you have a built-in tripod here. So if you are using this for AI tracking for like video conferencing or as a robotic cameraman, you can simply place it down like this. There's also an extension here. There's your included selfie stick, and you can see it pivots at the top as well, so tons of configurability. You can see I can spin that all the way down like that. back up, and all the way back down. So yes, a lot of versatility built into the Flow 2 Pro. The cool thing here is you've got native camera tracking now in iOS 18. So whether you're using the photo, cinematic, or slow motion modes that are built into your iPhone, you no longer need to use any third-party app in order to utilize the features inside of this gimbal. It's even compatible with Apple's ProRes, so if you're one of these more semi-professional type of filmers, you're gonna have all of your tracking and AI features available to you in that recording format. Plus, it'll be capable of working at 4K resolution, 60 frames per second, or all the way up to 120 FPS if you wanna do high frame rate. Plus, you've got this new smart wheel control, which you can use for zooming in and out or switching between front and rear cameras. It has that sort of spring on it, so it sets back to its reset point, and in certain modes, it can also control tilt. The whole thing is relatively configurable. The remainder of your navigation is controlled by this pad here and this joystick in the center. If you prefer to shoot directly into your social media app, this is compatible with over 200 third-party iOS apps, including TikTok, Instagram, Zoom, so you can use it for online meetings, video calls, content creation, or live streaming. On the front, we have our typical trigger. Of course, you can press and hold this trigger in order to sort of lock the device in a standard, stable, horizon sort of locked mode. The other thing, the spotlight, it is actually quite robust in the way that it attaches. You can see these two little clips here. So this thing is gonna clamp on like this into the USB out that's on the top portion. The light source will be emitting from the same location as the camera, and that's reversible. You can put that on either way. So starting up the device is really easy to do. You just unfold it and essentially it's powered on right at that moment. And when it comes to locking onto a particular object, you can draw directly on the screen. So drawing over a certain object will lock onto it, and it makes life as a gimbal operator a lot easier because no matter what you're doing with your movements, that object is finding the center of the frame kind of on its own. Pairing the device up is really easy to do. There's NFC on the device. You can just hold up your phone and it will immediately initiate the pairing process. Tracking dock, and then boom, Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. It's also got this light indicator, which is gonna tell the person in front of the camera that the device is actively tracking. This is nice if you don't have a separate cameraman. Once again, your little robot cameraman letting you know that tracking is enabled. Check out this example of a FaceTime call in which you're currently monitoring the call from the front-facing camera, but the rear-facing camera is obviously much better. When you choose to flip the camera around, the 360 realizes this and spins until it finds you, at which point you're going to be able to continue your video conference, but from the superior camera on the back of the iPhone in this case. And here you can see how that could aid in doing some sort of a demonstration in which you need to make sure that you're staying in the frame while the person on the other side of the FaceTime call is able to see what you're doing. And this is another cool one. This is what they call active zoom tracking, and this is adding zoom to the whole tracking repertoire. So now, if you highlight an individual and they move out of frame with active zoom tracking enabled, now you can see it's even more convincing as a robot cameraman, where it's able to create these camera moves that feel natural and smooth. This could be for creative purposes, but also just for functionality. Again, if a person's doing a presentation, for example, but they need to back up in order to get towards whatever display or screen or projection they're talking about, the zoom tracking can give you a much better perspective. This is pretty sophisticated stuff. You can see how it's working to keep recapturing the face. So if he goes out of range temporarily and then comes back in, it immediately recaptures, recenters, and makes the footage useful. So this active zoom tracking will work up to 15x zoom. So what if you want to track more than one person? Let's say you're trying to frame up a group of people, or in this case, 2 people. You can see how, while having a single track on this shot, it will actually cut off the other person. So if you're in a vlogging scenario and you want to have both people in frame, but you don't want to really have to think about doing that manually, you can set this multi-person track up and then just go ahead and walk and forget about it, and it will work to keep both individuals in the frame the entire time. Now this next one is for the creative individuals that are going to use this for, I don't know, filmmaking or just more creative shots in general. If you want to still utilize tracking, but you don't want to have it center frame, instead you want to create an asymmetrical shot, even a golden ratio shot, you can select which box you want the tracking to take place within. So center frame being typical for these types of gimbals, but then maybe you want to do a rule of thirds type of shot and have the subject on the left side or right side of the frame. Now this next mode that it has is pretty cool. It's 360-degree infinite pan tracking. So if you have the device central and you're moving, your subject is moving around it, it has no stopping point. And according to Insta360, the Flow 2 Pro and Flow Pro are the only foldable gimbals that perform this particular action. And you can see how you can utilize this to create some pretty cool shots. So something I noticed right away with this gimbal is this axis, this unusual axis here on the selfie stick. And you can see it has an on and off setting. This is in order to enable something called free tilt, which gives you added range of motion for tilt shots or things that are similar to crane shots, if you've ever seen those in productions. The crane shot gives you this kind of sweep effect by moving the camera vertically. Now obviously a crane is a large and cumbersome device, so to be able to create something that looks anything like that with a pocket gimbal is pretty cool. Now the Flow 2 Pro is obviously a comprehensive gimbal, and there's a number of different ways to interact with it. You can control it via your Apple Watch while utilizing the better built-in tripod from the previous generation. Obviously it also works as a power bank if you need power in a pinch, either when you're using your smartphone attached to it or if it just happens to be in your bag and your phone's getting low on charge. I'll give you some general specs on the device. It's 357 grams. The magnetic phone clamp is another 25 grams. It has a pretty wide range of compatible phone thickness when you're using the universal mount, from 6.9 to 10 millimeters. This little guy here is gonna work for most major smartphones, flagship smartphones and otherwise. The selfie stick gives you another 8.3 inches of reach. The battery capacity on the unit is 1100 milliamp hours. So after you're done with that 10 hours of runtime, it's gonna take you about 2 hours to charge it back up to full. So there you have it. That is the new Insta360 Flow 2 Pro, what they're calling the ultimate AI tracking stabilizer. This thing definitely has a ton of features. Probably most compelling to me is all of it working inside the native apps, which is gonna be my preference anyways, especially when you consider the fact that you can turn these devices into real production machines when utilizing some of those new ProRes features and log mode for getting footage, which can look a lot better than something that came off of a smartphone. You incorporate these camera moves with that video quality and the flexibility on your timeline when you go to edit it, and you end up with something that just looks way beyond smartphone footage.